Hi, my name is Jeannie Allen. I'm chair of the nominating committee, and our committee is involved with interviewing all of the candidates who are running for the board of directors this fall. The election will take place at the annual meeting in September. Today, we're very fortunate to have Frank HEISLER, a candidate for the board, and we're going to be chatting with him a little bit today. Our first question for Frank is, what motivated you to run for the board of directors?
Well, thanks for that, Jeannie. So first, as an introduction, I've been in Lake of the Woods for 6 years now. Originally, we were going to be weekenders here. That lasted all of 2 months because my wife just loved the community. And so shortly after that, within about a year's time, since we weren't leaving the lake much, I ended up retiring. And as I retired, I was looking for different things to do. I'm part of the woodworkers in the community. I was on the planning committee, tried that, and that was a lot of fun. And then I was asked to join the board, and that was in September of last year for an opening that occurred at that time. And so I thought about it quite a bit, and I decided I had the time. I'm retired. I can dedicate what I understood to be quite a bit of time, and it is. And it's been a very successful run, a lot of fun, good people. My motivation primarily for running for the board this time is, the previous board spent a lot of time in searching and finding a general manager for Lake of the Woods. And she has proven to be a very credentialed person who is bringing a lot of new talent, a lot of change to policy procedure. But there's a long way to go here. This is a big ship to turn, and I would like to see that through. I would like to support her in making the success of LOA continue as we move forward. And I think the board, through its direction, provides a big part of that for our community. And with the right guidance for the GM, she can continue to execute the plans that she has laid out and make us successful, profitable, and a great place to live and continue to live. So that's my main motivation. I have much background in boards. I have been on several HOA boards in the past, secretary, president, condominium type boards. So very familiar with the laws and how things work. Now that was in a different state. So coming to Virginia, I've had to do a bit of learning as well to get up to speed, but I enjoy the challenge. And I think that is where I'm at right now for running for the board.
Thank you, Frank. What homework have you done or are planning to do to prepare yourself for the role?
So I've been doing a lot of homework. Given that I'm on the board right now, I have spent a great deal of time with our articles of incorporation, our bylaws, our rules and regulations, and in addition, spent a great deal of time with the VPOAA, getting familiar with the Virginia Property Owners Association Act and the Non-Stock Corporation. These are critical documents that you need to understand in order to work on the board and to support an organization of this size. It is critical that we not only understand the rules of the road, but we know when we need to raise our hand for help. And that is typically by engaging our external legal that we rely on when the answers are vague. So as much as rules are written and they're out there and they're available, they're not always that clear. So you do need help. And the board's job is to really do a good job interpreting these rules, understanding how they fit into our organization and what it is we want to do within our community. So that is an ongoing learning process because, as you know, we're constantly changing needs and wants within the community, which then in turn changes rules. I'm the liaison on the Safety and Security Committee and also the Rules Committee. We've got a lot of work this year in changing up different rules, but making sure that those don't step on other bylaws and rules that we have in play. So the understanding of all this is critical to make sure that we don't misstep as we're trying to improve something. So that is a lot of the homework I've been doing, and I think that really puts us in a great place for moving forward.
Thank you, Frank. You kind of answered this in the first question, but what is your understanding of the board's role in governance and how it interacts with the general manager?
So, yes, I answered part of that, but I'll tell you, the board's job is exactly to direct. It is not to manage. We have people to manage our organization and keep things healthy here in the community. That's why bringing on the talent that we have is so critical. As a board of directors, we lay out guidelines for management to follow. Now, it's done in collaboration. It's not like it's an edict handed down from the board. The board decides through different inputs from the community and from our emails, our membership, how to address the challenges that are out there. And then we work with management and set direction as almost as if they're goals for management. So, for example, this year, there was a lot of concern with our budget, last year's budget. The board, we put a directive out to finish the year at a net zero. Okay, now that wasn't looking promising, and it required a lot of work on the GM's part. We actually accomplished that, and she did it with change in policy and doing what was necessary to make the place run effectively. So with that, that's how I see the board working for the community. It is not, most people see it as an end-all to, anything that comes from the board, they're running the whole place. It's more a collaboration with the existing management, and it needs to be looked at that way and treated that way in order for us all to be successful.
Thanks, Frank. This will be an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Social media has become a powerful influence on our society and in our community. What is your perspective on these platforms, and how can we best leverage the opportunities they represent?
Well, that is an interesting one. Social media, it's a tool, and it's a great tool if it's used correctly. I think for the lake, we have a social media site, we have websites, and they're great at putting communication out to the membership. It's just another vehicle. Where social media tends to not be the best tool for a community such as ours is when it's opened up to comments. And as you know, our Facebook page it's restricted on comments. And there's a reason for that. There's a couple reasons. One, you can't effectively answer everybody out there. That staff would look crazy to try and handle something like that. Secondly, the rise in anonymity that's going on social media today has introduced a level of confidence in people where, they're really just sitting behind keyboards and not really prepared to come out and address the issue face to face. And to me, when you're in a community of this size, that's where you really succeed, is having conversation with the people, with the board, with the GM, with all the pertinent people that can make change. So I see social media as just another tool, like Lake Currents, like the email blasts, like every other tool we try to use to get the message out. It is not the effective communicator to receive messages back. We have email for that. We have open member comment periods in the board meetings. Those are good vehicles to get your point across and out in the public. And then it's easier to address the issues that are out there and try and handle them effectively.
What are your ideas to increase member participation, especially in voting for referendums?
So this is a question that has plagued boards for decades, I believe. In a community as large as we are, we're constantly looking at the amount of communication that goes out. There was a great communications team put in place a few years back. That has helped to direct specific messaging out to the membership. But I'm still surprised as I go around and talk to people who haven't read the late currents. They don't get the email blasts that come out, and they really don't track things on social media. So now you look and say, okay, well, are they just too busy, or are they just happy living their lake life here? And you know, some people are just happy living their lake life. I don't know that we're going to always get to those folks. They're just going to, you know, do them, and that's okay. You know, this year you saw surveys that came out, you know, and there's going to be more of those as we move forward. Looking to get whatever comments we can from the community to try and expand member engagement. You can't force it. You know, all you can do is continue to try and refine your messaging that goes out to people so that you pique their interest to try and respond. That's the only tool we really have at this point. You know, because when you're looking to make improvements here, and particularly when people don't respond or engage, it's either they don't have the time, the message is not on point enough for them to respond quickly, or they just don't want to engage. I think we're continuing to find different avenues as we move forward to try and engage with our members differently. Look at the signage that we have on all the electronic media around all of Lake of the Woods. You know, you can't go into Fairways or the clubhouse without seeing, you know, current events and messages. Yet I still run into people that say, well, I didn't see that. Oh, well, how did you hear about this? So it's a lot of word of mouth we've got to do as well, and keep people engaged and trying to learn more about our community, because I really think it's critical that the more people we get involved, the better off we're going to be, especially coming to things like referendum questions. And I think a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I don't need to get involved. Somehow we've got to change the messaging, maybe tweak it a little bit more to pique their interest enough to at least respond. So as we move forward, this is going to be a continual improvement process. It is not a one-size-fits-all or any answer that anybody can give. We're going to keep trying different things to try and get more and more people over time, and that's the best we can do at this point.
Frank, what do you consider the most important current issue facing Lake of the Woods, and how should we best address them?
So that list can get very large. There's first and foremost, primarily, it's our infrastructure. You know, we're 60 years old at this point. There is a lot of infrastructure here that needs attention. And it's not just our roads, it's the culverts. It's, you know, the assets that we currently have within our reserves. Luckily, this year, we're taking a different approach with our reserve list and using that more as a checklist as opposed to an actual budget spend list. So that is going to help us to get much smarter in how we handle improvements. But there's more that needs to be done here. And you know, we've had some major projects that have happened in the past, in the recent past, and we've got to curtail as much of that going forward, our capital spend, in order to focus more on the infrastructure. It's a critical piece to the success of our community and keeping LOA as good as it is. We've got some unbelievable talent on the lake side, and certainly now on maintenance. We need to let them do their jobs. A lot of the requests that are coming up for special projects need to be critically evaluated from a board standpoint to see if it's truly a need or a want within the community. And honestly, we've only got to do the needs right now because we have proven in the past, we can't juggle all of these things successfully. So we've got to focus on the critical ones right now. And I think if we do that in our community, that's going to get us in a very good place within about 2 years' time to at least make sure that we get the momentum and the planning in place to handle such things as all the culvert issues, the stormwater issues, the dredging. These are big things. They do not happen overnight, and they require a ton of planning. So when we try and inject a new project to the staff and say, oh, hey, along with your full-time job, and their full-time job is even more than that, could you take on this project? That's not the best way to manage us going forward for where we are right now. So I think that we need a pause of a great degree. And I think if you look at this year's board, our capital approved for this year is the lowest I have seen in at least a decade. We approved $40,000 in capital this year. $20,000 of that is for an ADA compliance opener here at the community center. The other $20,000 is a placeholder for next year. So, we haven't seen numbers this low. It's a great thing. We're being fiscally responsible. We're on the right trajectory here to get us to a very comfortable place to manage this in the right way going forward. So I think we have to keep that rigor in place right now and drive ourselves to be successful. And that's where I see the board having a big role in this as we move forward.
All right, Frank, this last question is kind of a bonus question. Mm-hmm. Give us your 30-second elevator speech on why you should be elected.
All right, so first off, having experience on the board, not just this board, but several others, both in condominium and business, gives me the background and the experience to handle most of the situations that would come up to a board of our size for our community. And certainly in my business career, where I handled turnaround for many large companies and businesses, allows me to look at challenging situations and get them on the right track. I see the challenge of the board here in working with not just the membership, but the GM, to be exactly the same road. We're going to take, the right steps to move us in the right direction together, not in a separate mode. And that really is what's going to make us successful going forward.